Hi everybody, Plays here, and today we're going to be doing a tier list of the Druid legendary cards. I decided rather than chuck all the class cards together, I thought I'd do a video per class, so you're going to see a video every day, apart from Monday and Friday of me doing all the classes. The reason I'm doing it every day is because I'm trying to do it before the new expansion comes out, but I basically just wanted to do an overview of how all these classes performed, and I feel like I can take a little bit more time actually ranking these properly whilst doing the videos separately as well. Also, one more thing about my previous video, I put Master Oakheart in F tier, and a lot of people really shout out and disdain over that. So after really looking into the card, I'm actually going to consider putting it in C tier instead of F. I think I didn't look at the stats properly. I thought it was understated, but it was actually fine, especially considering what it did. So yeah, apologies about that. But overall, I'm still happy with my previous tier list, so I got that going for me. Anyway, let's get to it. Alrighty, so here is my list. So here's the tier list right here. I'm sorry if my camera looks a bit different. I just messed with my lighting settings. I'm not happy with it still, but it's gonna do because I can't remember how they were. Anyway, so we have Archspore Mshvin. I never know how to say that right. I think this card instinctively goes to A tier. It's a 3 mana 3/4, and the prime that you get is amazing. It's a 10 mana 9/9. Summon another 9/9 with Rush or Taunt. The only reason it's not an S tier is because you do have to draw that prime, and if you don't draw it, then sometimes it's a little too late to use it, but it's still a really great card. Like, it's good statted for the mana cost, and it's a taunt, so you know, props to it. Next we have is Cenarius. So Cenarius actually had a much higher win rate on HS Replay than I realised, and I kind of get it. There is a lot of tokeny type decks out there at the moment. So Cenarius is an 8 mana 5/8, give your other minions +2/+2, or summon 2/2/2 Trents with taunts. So you can either go wide or you can buff your existing board. I think it's pretty solid, and that is exactly why I'm going to slap it down in B tier. Next we have is Forest Warden Omu. I'm very skeptical of this card. I am very torn between D and E for this cards. So basically 6 mana 5/4, refresh your mana crystals after you cast a spell. Now, I don't know. Like, you could just slam it down on turn 10, and if you cast, I don't know, Nature Studies, and then you get your 10 mana crystals left, and then you can play something else. I guess in that sense that could make it fairly decent, and it's making me really think about it. Like, you can't just slam this card on turn 6, and I feel like I kind of want cards I can utilize right away, so I'm going to slam it down at E tier. I think it is useful, but I personally wouldn't pick it. Next card we have is Greybough. This has the highest win rate on HS Replay for Druid Legendaries, and I absolutely agree with it, because Greybough is game changing and it's going to go right into S tier. As I said, tokeny decks are in at the moment, so you could play a lot of token cards in the early game. You could slam this down and then, yeah, usually just win the game unless your opponent has AoE. It is brutal, and I absolutely love the card. Next card we have is Guff Runetome, that's it. So it's a 3 mana 2/4. After you cast a nature spell, give another friendly minion +2/+2. I'm going to plop this down in C tier because if you don't have any nature spells, you have to remember it's still a 3 mana 2/4. It's a little unstated, but it's not completely terrible. And I think even if you just cast one nature spell with this, I think it's worth it. Obviously not as good as the cards above it, and that's why it's kind of like in the mediocre tier. It's alright, not amazing. Next card we have is Fungal Lord. So it's a 5 mana 2/4. After you play a minion, summon a copy of it. I think this card is actually really good. Like, there are some very powerful minions out there. So, like, for example, if you play this on turn 10, you play this, and you can play like 5-cost minion. For example, Teacher's Pet. Now you have 2 Teacher's Pets. It's insane. Obviously, you can't play this game. My gosh, why are words hard? Obviously, you can't play this card like on turn 5 because it would just die. Like, let's be real here. But even if you were to play it like on turn 8 and get like 2 free drops, I think it does mask the value quite a bit. It's quite tough to say. I think because there's quite a few conditions and you can't really play it right away, I'm going to put in B tier, but like if you pull this card off, it could easily go into A, maybe S tier. Next card we have is Kiri. So add a solar eclipse and lunar eclipse to your hand. I don't think this card is great or good or average. Like, it gives you a little bit of value in your hand, but because it's so understated, I just don't really appreciate this card that much. And for that reason alone, I'm actually just going to chuck it in D tier. Next card we have is Lady Anaconda. This card was hard to find on HS Replay because apparently has the lowest pick rates for any Druid Legendary. So basically it's a 6 mana 3/7 and it makes all the nature spells cost 2 less whilst it's on board. I'm going to put this right into F tier because the stats are severely understated and I don't think you will ever have enough nature spells to really make this worth picking. Next card we have is Malorn. It's a 7 mana 9/7 Death Rattle. Shuffle this minion into your deck. So one thing I like to do with this card is compare it to Wax Dread. Now with Wax Dread, when it dies, it shuffles a candle into the deck, and when it is drawn, it just automatically summons it. Meanwhile, this card you'd have to replay it. So every time you spend in 7 mana on just a 9/7 body. Don't get me wrong, that's alright. But I think it could be better, you know. That's why I'm going to put it into like mid tier because it kind of stops you from fatiguing, but at the same time, I'm still not a fan. Next card we have is Plaguemaw the Rotten. So after a friendly minion with taunt dies, summon a new copy of it without taunt. So stat wise, bit understated. It requires you to have a taunt, so it does require that synergy. Luckily for Druid, there is quite a bit of taunts available to them. I think it's still just below average. Like if you have enough taunts, then obviously I would say it'll plop up to C, maybe B, depending on how many you have. But as it stands as a card on its own, I would plop it down in D territory. I'm not a massive fan of it. Next card we have is Shandor Wildclaw. So choose one, give beasts in your deck +1/+1, or transform into a copy of a friendly beast. Now, Druid actually has quite a lot of decent beasts out there. So you buffing your deck or just copying a beast isn't too bad. The stats for it isn't great, but I think it's still okay. So I'm just going to slam it down a C tier. I think it's not the end of the world if you had to draft this card. Next card we have is Speaker Gydra. So it's a 3 mana 1/4 Rush Wind Fury spell burst, gain attack and health equal to the spell's cost. I'm going to slam this right into A tier. Could be S tier, but it does require you to have a spell to trigger it. I think this card can be exceptional. Like, it's just so good. Like, even if you cast like a 2 mana spell right afterwards, you get like a 3 mana 3/6 with Wind Fury and Rush, which could bring you back on the board if you were Druid, because everyone who knows that with Druid, if you fall behind on board, you usually can't come back. So this is why I think this card is quite exceptional. Last 2 cards, so the second last is Twig of the World Tree. So it's a 4 mana 1/5 weapon, gain 10 mana crystals. I'm not particularly a fan of this. No. I'm gonna chuck it down to F tier. Like, I think it's a very high cost in Light's Justice for Druids. I just don't see it working at all. I remember when this used to be a staple though. Didn't this used to be a staple in Wild? I can't remember. But yeah, no, in Arena, I just don't see how it would flow. And then the next card you have is a 9 mana 5/5 Izel Windsinger. So the spells cost 1 mana if you have this on boards. It's quite understated for the card itself. One thing that could be really cool with it though is like if you have 10 mana, you can cast Scenarios Ward, for example, together with it, or some other high costing spell, so that could always be fun. But I think overall, most of the time you're going to be playing a 9 mana 5/5. I'm going to chuck in an E tier because if you have lots of spells, it could be useful occasionally, but I think most of the time it's actually going to be like an F tier card. I don't think you're ever going to really pull it off that well, because I feel like Druid don't have much in terms of draw nowadays apart from that 5/4 stealth, and that's if you actually manage to draft it. I never see that card. So yeah, that is my tier list for Druid. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I always like listening to other people's opinions, and also just to let you know as well, there will be a link to access this tier list in my description below, so go check it out. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.